Such a stupid script. And it got me so good. Imagine you are driving somewhere and because you weren't paying attention you crash into a tree. So you pull out a flashlight and a machete out of the car and chop off the nearest tentacles growing out of the ground. That's exactly how the recently released indie horror game Got It, Infested Crypts begins. And if you think the story goes anywhere from here... The Ukrainian developer from Slamaway Games didn't beat around the bush. Instead of spending time crafting a narrative masterpiece, he presented players with a simple problem. Here's a gun, here are the enemies, you know what to do. Okay, it doesn't take long before something that appears to be the main villain, or rather the female villain, pops out at you. This demon-possessed, young lady. But my initial reaction spoke for itself. One of the first things that's guaranteed to grab your attention is the blood. Got It is like squishing a blood-sucking mosquito, blood splatters everywhere and even some heads or limbs fly around you. Sometimes there's so much of it that you don't even know if it's coming from the enemies or from you. In other words, figuring out in all that carnage whenever something hit you can be quite a challenge at times. Especially since the game is extremely grainy on the default graphics settings, which to be honest I don't understand. The film grain is set to the 1.0 and it's as grainy as a poorly tuned old analog TV. I managed to put up with it for about 13 minutes before I lost my patience and started tweaking the settings as much as I could. That means I cranked the settings down to the minimum and luckily it helped. But you know what, I can't believe how much I'm enjoying this. At first I thought it would be one of those relatively shitty/okay indie horror shooters that seems to be halfway cooked, and where you deliberately overlook a lot of things just because it didn't cost you 60 euros like the AAA production. And everything pointed to that. The outdoor areas around the crypt were anything but a well-designed tunnel, and all those scorpions, or whatever they are supposed to be, were more of an annoyance than anything else. I mean, it's not like I didn't have to deal with them right up till the very end, but they didn't just win me over there. Plus, to conserve ammo, I was chopping them up with my machete, which didn't help matters much either. But then I finally got inside, the area around me grew significantly darker and my flashlight had to make double shifts just to let me see at least 2 meters ahead. It really could be brighter or at least illuminate the surrounding area consistently. Sometimes it shines like a stadium reflector, other times practically not at all. Or sometimes the developer deliberately turns it off in about 4 spots because an enemy pops out from around the corner, and after all there's nothing better than running into them in complete darkness. Otherwise though, for me it's a very entertaining horror shooter. You make your way through dark corridors trying to guess which enemy will jump out from which direction. It doesn't matter at all whenever they are the scorpions mentioned earlier, tall zombies, something like dogs or even nuns. They are all equally dangerous, and on the highest difficulty setting they can send you back to the last checkpoint with just 1 or 2 hits. Unfortunately, there's no option to save manually. Which I would probably consider the biggest flaw, since exploring the dark crypt, dodging eggs and the stress of an approaching monster were more than enough fun for me. This game doesn't try to be anything it's not, it doesn't try to pull off any crazy ideas and focuses on what it knows it can achieve, and it works to its advantage. Perhaps only the final boss and the very end of the game were pretty much a waste of time, I expected more. Without any major spoilers, I'll just say it's a trio of big battles and there's so much ammo in the room that it would be enough for the entire Second World War. Then you just run away and return to your parked car. In conclusion, let me first and foremost thank that madman who left me an endless supply of ammo along the way. I really wouldn't have made it without his help. But seriously, this is exactly how I would imagine the upcoming and I hope real survival horror game Ill to be. Of course with a bigger budget, better graphics, more gameplay elements and above all longer, because you can easily finish Gutted Infested Crypts on a higher difficulty in an hour and a half and that's it. In any case, this project by a Ukrainian solo developer is more than solid, and I'm not afraid to say that for me it's one of the best horror shooters of this year. Uncompromising, dark with a genuinely dense atmosphere and for less than €10.